Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the 2018 season of the Adelaide Crows and where it went wrong. Yes, obviously ended up coming in 12th with 12 wins, and which is a pretty big drop considering that they were obviously in 2017 they were first and made the grand final. They were Premiership favourites coming into. I think they were Premiership favourites. It was either them or GWS coming into this season, but yeah, they couldn't get it done. They didn't even make the final. So I'm going to look at what happened. So if you go back to round one, see where it all began. Obviously, in round one they lost to Essendon by 12 points, which they probably should have won that game because they're up by quite a bit at quarter time, as you can see, and they didn't have a very good last quarter, but that's not really where their season was lost, because next round obviously they bounced back and smashed the Tigers by 36 points, and yeah, then they beat St Kilda, and so by round 3, if we just jump ahead to round 3, they're already up there in third, so they're doing pretty okay. Then they played Collingwood, and that was really when Collingwood arrived, because up until that point all they'd done is just beat Carlton, and obviously Carlton isn't they're not a very good team, are they? They're pretty terrible, but Collingwood absolutely smashing Adelaide really showed we're here and Buckley isn't going anywhere. Yes, and then they managed to then they luckily bounced back and beat the Swans at their home ground. So by round 5, they're looking okay, I guess. Nothing's looking too bad. And then obviously they had 2 easy weeks where they played Gold Coast and then Carlton. So by round 7 they're up there in third, roughly about where you'd picture them, somewhere up, fighting for the top spot. And then they had the first showdown, which they really should have won that game. They definitely should have won that game, because if we go into this game, they were winning fairly substantially, and then let Port Adelaide get into the lead. That was ridiculous that they let Port get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in a row. It was ridiculous that they let them do that, and then they managed to get back the lead, and then so they were lucky that they even got back that lead. But then they managed to lose the game in the final seconds. They definitely should have won that game. So big mishap there by the Crows. They should have won that. Obviously, then they bounced back the next week and beat the Bulldogs. So I consider this game here to be the beginning of the downfall of the Crows. Because then they had this game, which what? Just what is that? How do you lose? It's it was a third v fourth game. It wasn't it was It wasn't like it was Melbourne were at home and they were the best team and Adelaide were the worst team. That's what you'd expect a 91 point, whatever it was. Yeah, 91 point victory to be. How did Melbourne do that? That really, really was the beginning of the downfall of the Crows, because then they lost that game, and then obviously they lost to the Giants at home. Obviously they started getting some injuries. They lost to the Giants. Yeah, it was a fairly close game, and they couldn't quite manage to win. And they lost to Freo. So that wasn't too good. Yeah. So managing to lose to Fremantle, not a good thing. And then they got smashed by Hawthorn. So by round 13, they dropped all the way down to 11th. and their season was in trouble. They bounced back the next week by beating West Coast, who were on a bit of a brief slide. But yeah, they had a bye then, didn't they? Sorry, and then they beat West Coast. Yeah, and they played the Tigers and got smashed by Richmond. Managed to beat Geelong. So by this point they really needed everything to go right to make the finals. And things just didn't quite go right. They just beat Brisbane, like that's not good. Lost to Melbourne at home, because I think by this point this was, I remember when I watched this game thinking this is their season on the line. If they lose this, I didn't see them making the 8, and well, they lost it and they didn't make the 8, so obviously I was fairly right. And yeah, then they beat them. Where are we up to? We're up to round 19. They lost to Melbourne. If they'd have beaten Melbourne, I would have said their season was still on, but by that point, yeah, no, they weren't going to make it. Obviously, then they beat Port Adelaide, which was the beginning of Port Adelaide's downfall. Yeah, but if they had beaten Melbourne or Freo or Port Adelaide both times, let's say they beat Fremantle and they beat Port Adelaide, which they should have done both times. They should have beaten Port Adelaide. So let's say that happened, they would have been up there in 9th, just fighting out for that last spot, but that's not what happened. And then obviously they lost to the Giants, which was the official end of their season. Like by that point they couldn't make the 8 anymore. It was like impossible. Well, it was still possible, but let's face it, is it really gonna happen? Are they really gonna win both of their games and increase their percentage by 16%? I don't think so. Well, then they just beat North, which was the end of North's season, and then they smashed Carlton and ended up in 12th. So altogether it was a pretty pathetic season for the Crows. Disappointing considering how good they were the year before. But I reckon that in 2019 they should bounce back and might even make the 4. So I don't think you should expect the Crows to stay down whatsoever. Yeah, it's my opinion. But yeah, thank you for watching. I might do some other teams who I think failed, underperformed, or maybe overperformed in the 2018 season. Yeah, bye.